Thank you, Mr. Eidater. So as an example of infrastructure, we will now introduce the German-French station in New Orleans on Svalbard. And we do this in a live telephone talk with the station leader, Katrin Lang in New Orleans, and the interviewer is Andrea Hein from the Ministry of Education and Research. She's the deputy head of System Earth, and in her function is also the polar research within the ministry. So we will see if we have Katrin on the phone. It should work. She was there.
Thank you very
Yes, I'm here.
much.
Hello.
Thank you again to our Icelandic hosts for giving us the opportunity to speak. And I'm calling Katrin Lang now at our station AWIPEV in the Arctic. Katrin, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, wonderful, Katrin. Thank you. This is our front woman in the Arctic for this season. Katrin, AWI and the German Polar Program have been present in the Arctic since 1991. Could you give us an idea which areas of research AWI does follow on Svalbard in Norway there?
Yes, so for the AWI here in New Orleans on Svalbard, everything started with atmospheric sciences in the early 90s with the establishment of the cold device station.
Katrin, can you speak a little more slowly? We cannot follow this very well due to the telephone link. Thanks.
Okay. So here in New Orleans, everything started with atmospheric sciences for the AWI. In the early 90s with the establishment of the cold device station, and since then the station has come a long way. We are now the AWIPEV station that does not do only extensive atmospheric research, but also research in marine and terrestrial biology, permafrost geology, glaciology, the study of the ecosystem of the fjord. And really, you need to study all of them because everything is interconnected in one way or the other.
Thank you. Katrin, we saw earlier on in the presentations of Karin Lochte and Uwe Nixdorf of all the possibilities the AWI has there. There's the Polar Stern, there's Heinke, there's the research planes, and there's also the stations. Could you give us an idea of the hottest scientific projects AWI runs on Spitsbergen?
So here in Spitsbergen, one of the big topics for sure is the atmospheric observatory and the observation of the atmosphere, and with this the observation of the temperature and the increase of the temperature that we can measure with our daily radio sonde and our meteorological equipment. And then also, for example, the observation of the ozone hole over the Arctic.
Thank you. Katrin, more importantly, what are the most important scientific research results that you can present to us? Because there's always the question of politicians. What does this all lead to? What does this tell us, the science that we have been doing for decades there?
Yes. So coming back, for example, to our hottest topics, we have been observing the atmosphere here in New Orleans for the past 25 years with continuous data. And this data, for example, shows a trend for the temperature with an increase of about 1.35 degrees Celsius per decade, which shows it's about twice as much as the global mean, which is, everyone maybe has heard of this by now, the Arctic amplification, that the temperature in the increase in the Arctic is much higher, like twice, than what you observe in the rest of the world. So that's a very important result. Then also here at the station, the first ozone hole over the Arctic has been discovered in 2011. This is not an annual phenomenon. It's very dependent on the winter condition of the atmosphere. But we still try to observe it every year if it's possible. And these are the results in connection with the hottest topic, but there's much other research, like on the permafrost. It's observed that the active layer, the thawed layer, is increasing. Or another very nice research result and topic we have here is our underwater observatory that observes the fjord even in the winter time, and that shows, for example, that in the winter time there's much more life in the fjord than expected.
So it's good to hear that you are absolutely in line with the international findings. The temperature has significantly risen in the last decades. One question to you personally, Katrin. How long are you stationed in the Arctic? Is it lonely out there? Have you got many visitors?
Yeah, we're stationed about 12 to 15 months and have a little overlap with the old team for a couple of months. And so far I cannot say that it is lonely at all, since we're pretty busy. In the summertime you have all the scientists coming. And on top of the scientists we do have visitors, mostly journalists and politicians. So this year, for example, we had from Germany, from the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research, Mrs. Vanka and a delegation in April. And in the summertime we had, for example, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and US Senator John McCain here as some of the big visitors of this year.
That sounds most interesting. One of them is my boss, Minister Vanka, of course, but I have absolutely not met Ban Ki-moon, so I really envy you, Katrin. One last thing, Katrin, have you got an appeal for us at the Arctic Circle conference here in Reykjavik?
So when it comes to research and climate change, first of all, it's very important to have long-term measurements, because this is the only way to make any conclusions about climate change. And the data that is collected needs to be continuous and of high quality. So that one thing that also the AWIPEV and the atmospheric research has done here in Ålesund for many years. Then also international collaborations are very important. Researchers need to work together. They need to complement each other and their measurements, because that's the only way to get a global picture of what's happening. So international working together and networks are really important. And the AWIPEV base and Ålesund in that case are really a good place to be. We're 12 nations here that have the Arctic research bases here in town. The AWIPEV base is bi-national, and much of the work here is only be possible because we are in an international environment and have international collaborations going on.
Thank you very much, Katrin. Thank you very much indeed to our station leader in the Arctic. And I hand back the floor to Volker Rachold. Thank you.